This demo was pre-recorded. A reason that we did that is to save a lot of the processing time. So some of the clicks of the buttons that we do will require 20, 30 seconds for the system to think. Over the course of the demonstration, that adds up to a pretty significant amount of time. So we've pre-recorded the demo. I'll kind of talk through what's happening with that demo once we get to it. And essentially what you're going to see is you're going to see a real modern UI conversion, fully recorded. And this is going to give you an idea of some of the things that you may deal with. We chose a fairly straightforward example just to kind of fit into the constraints of this demo, but we're going to look at two situations. So there's going to be one where it's a standard Acumatica screen. We're going to use the stock item screen that has been customized. And then the second is going to be a screen that we've built completely custom, so completely from scratch. And this is going to be a warranty related screen. And we're going to go through the conversion of both of them. All right. And this is, two pretty straightforward examples to provide broader context to what you can expect. So in a standard client environment, there's going to be potentially multiple customizations, multiple screens impacted. So what you're seeing here, you can kind of extrapolate out to what you may expect to see in your client environment. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get the demo started, and we'll share what that looks like. And again, this is going to be fairly technical. So this may be something that that you want to share with your technical team going forward. And again, any questions at the end, we'll be happy to answer. All right, so where we're starting here is on the stock item screen, we've built a pretty simple customization. So if we open the screen up, we're going to see 4 custom fields in the top right: warranty plan, coverage type, coverage months, and a checkbox there. Those are just 4 pretty standard custom fields that we've added to the stock item screen. And then on this second screen, this is a fully custom screen that we've built called the warranty registrations. So we're going to go through the conversion of both of those to the modern UI. So step 1 is that convert to modern UI action there, which that's the automated portion. That's going to generate new files in the customization package. So now that that process has run, we can go into the customization package, and we can take a look. You can see there the modern UI files with 4 different ones. That's what was just generated. And at this point, there's no indication that anything has gone less than perfect. So we're going to run the publish, and we're going to run into a big validation error. So it's important to point out that this validation error that we're about to see, it was not highlighted by the converter tool. The converter tool didn't notice this, but in attempting to publish this package, we're starting to understand that something may have gone awry. And what we're going to see here is the developer that's working on this kind of tracing back to get to the actual problem that's at hand. All right. And one thing that's important to notice is these errors will manifest themselves in different ways. So you've got to be pretty careful with how you do this. So as you can see, we're switching to the modern UI just to get a look at what it looks like, and also to get a feel for look and feel. So you'll notice here in the modern UI, now that we've switched, those 4 custom fields related to warranty are gone. And what the developer is identifying now is that the tool generated a label internally that didn't actually match what the system was expecting. And in the grand scheme of things, you can see he's highlighted there the form-stock item, which is the root of our issue here. And it, when all said and done, this is a very small mismatch, but it's something that's very important. And it was invisible in the sense that the converter tool didn't highlight that it was an issue that had happened until we ran the validation. And this is the kind of thing that it's small, but it stopped the screen and the customization from showing the way that it should. So now once we actually dive into the customization package and into the corresponding files here, this is where we start to see where we need to update this. So again, very simple change. We updated from a div 0 to a form stock item to actually provide the correct linkage there. Very small change that needed to be made, but that's the type of thing that you may see from time to time, and in many cases a little more frequently, when converting from classic UI to modern and using the converter tool. So now that we've made that change, we're going to publish the updated package. And now we're going to notice it validates successfully and we get no errors kicked back to us. So we're going to get a customization published successfully. That's great. And we're going to go take a look at our stock item screen to confirm that the fields are now showing there in the modern UI. So when we click into the field here, or sorry, into the screen, we're going to see top right, now we've got our fields again. Everything looks great there. So on this standard screen stock items, we've completed the transition to modern UI. But now we're going to take a look at the warranty registration screen, which this is our fully custom screen. And we're going to realize that we've got some issues here as well. So when we pull this up, what we're going to see is under that claims area, our grid is no longer showing correctly. Once we switch it over, you notice the grid is no longer showing. It looks like we might have an action issue up top, which we'll dig into in just a second, but we recognize that the grid is no longer showing. So important thing to note here is that these conversion errors can happen many different ways. You'll notice on this one, when we published the customization, it validated successfully with no errors kicked back. However, the screen is still not showing correctly. So this is something, again, we have to be very, very careful about, and we have to manually confirm the output of the converter. And we, in many cases, have to perform manual analysis and manual updates in order to correct it. So from here, we're in that manual work portion where the developer, in this case, is rebuilding certain portions of this code that didn't convert correctly and may need to go back and forth to the original screen to confirm exactly how it was pulling data in, just to make sure that the rebuilt version connects to the correct information on the back end. So we've got this fast forwarded just to go through a lot of this very, very quickly. But these are all the components that in this case didn't convert correctly and needed to be rebuilt in order to tie all of the data together the way that it needs to. And the level of effort here, you can obviously see in this scenario, there's a much higher level of effort than on the original fix that we made. The original fix was on a standard screen with just a couple of custom fields. The fix that's being performed right now, this is on the fully custom screen. So it means every component of that screen was built from scratch. So when the converter tool is converting those types of screens, it's worth noting that there's a lot more for the converter tool to check, a lot more room for error. You also notice we just had an error message in the top right, and that was kind of a bug in the converter tool itself that we had to work through and manually rebuild certain components of it. And so now we're going through and we're updating each of the modern UI files that is related here. And we're getting close to having this ready to go. Once we finalize this portion of it, we're going to publish this customization, and then we're going to go take a look at our warranty registration screen to confirm that the grid is showing correctly. And one of the last fixes here, if you were looking closely there was a missing button that was identified that it lived on the server side and not on the screen itself. And again, this is something that the converter tool doesn't think to check. And really, most people would not think to check it. These are very small details that we're talking about, but this type of detail is what's going to be very, very important to having clean conversions from the classic UI to the modern UI. So with all of those changes made, we're now going to publish this customization. We're going to get a successful validation, and we're going to see no errors are thrown back at us. But at this point, we're kind of learning that if we don't get any errors thrown back at us, that doesn't necessarily mean everything is perfect. So we're still going to need to go into the screen and do a manual confirmation to see whether or not the conversion is complete. One of the big things is going to be on that warranty registration screen. Are we now seeing a grid down there? And we do see that now there's a grid showing as opposed to the general text box that we saw. And we've also got the register warranty action. That's the field that we needed to update due to it living on the server side and not actually on the screen itself. Okay, and that's the very last piece of the puzzle here. And while we're finishing up that, just because I know most of us are probably not as interested in the code as we are the overall concept, but what we looked at here was two different screens. One was a out of the box screen, which had small customizations on it, and one was a fully custom screen. Both of those scenarios required manual developer work in order to convert correctly, but the scale of that work was different. So in many cases, if it's an out of the box screen with small customizations on it, the level of effort may be a little smaller just because most of it is out of the box. Most of it was Acumatica built. So most of it's going to convert over cleanly. It's only the custom components that the converter tool needs to convert. When it's a fully custom screen, everything is custom. So it needs to convert all of that. So there's just significantly greater room for error. So now we can see that the register warranty button is showing correctly and everything looked good to go there. Now, so that's the end of the demo, and kind of the concept that we want to take away from that is what you just saw was obviously sped up for most of it, and we skipped over a couple of things, but that analysis and that review is going to need to be done for every screen in Acumatica that has been customized to convert it from classic to modern UI. So having visibility into that and having awareness into what goes into converting to modern UI is very important. That way you can set expectations for your customers and also game plan internally. How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to allocate your dev team? Will you need to bring in outside resources? All of those types of things, because in the video, the problems were very quickly identified because we obviously the plan for this was to kind of show start to finish how it would work. But there's a lot of expertise that goes into identifying those errors, a lot of expertise that goes into understanding how to correct those errors, where to find them, all those types of things. So it's definitely a project that requires dedicated effort in order to perform successfully.